Every member of the entire dragon clan who could move or fly was now haphazardly perched around every point of the facility they could find, eyes gleaming and drooling hungrily. Caliban was carefully adding spices to a swimming pool-sized cauldron of his now famous Croco Bear gumbo. The smell of the gumbo was permeating through the entire crater, the brown and red mixture of meats and vegetables bubbling in the pot. Caliban was very carefully adding spices, herbs, certain mushrooms, and tasting it, acting less like a dragon eliminator and more a professional chef. Arterius was especially interested, his eyes perfectly tracing the large spoon as it moved in the pot as he lay flat on the ground, like a puppy watching his master cook his food. Hanging from several hooks from large poles were large creatures, bear-like monsters, and truly enormous alligator-like lizards, skinned, scaled, and left to bleed out for the future food. The creatures were numerous, to a concerning degree, so nobody cared if Cal used them for his weekly gumbo cooking frenzies. The swimming pool's worth of gumbo was enough to feed the dragons, despite their size, because of an ancient trick, filling out the meal with noodles, bread, rice, or pasta, of which 3 large pots and a rather large bread oven nearby were full of, gently simmering away. Cal used various valves and switches on a pipe network nearby to control the strangely mesmerizing fires. The smells emitting from the pot were nothing short of amazing, with every nearby creature ignoring everything around them. The crowd of hundreds of dragons of every size simultaneously gasped in awe as they realized it was almost done. Caliban put a pair of sunglasses on and casually sprinkled a certain herb into the pot, almost as if a villain in a play had just performed his perfect move with no hero swooping in to stop him. "Come and get it!" Caliban yelled. Momentary chaos erupted as every dragon who could swarmed onto the steel-plated concrete of the factory. A thunderous roar of stomping feet, fluttering wings, and roaring hungry dragons filled the air. Each dragon lined up in a queue to receive his or her share of the delicious concoction. One large bowl, a bowl the size of a standard soup pot, was filled first with the dragon's choice of rice, pasta, or noodles, then given 2 spoonfuls of tasty, steamy hot gumbo. Some dragons simply preferred to have their gumbo served on a large slice of bread, or even as a crunchy meal with a selection of rusks or crackers. The new students, 15 young ladies from the closest village, were all dumbstruck at the sight, staring at the event from the nearby dormitory building they found themselves in. "This is terrifying," Marie said as she peered from an upstairs window with her 3 friends. "It is. What's more concerning than the dragons is I have no idea what to do about it. How exactly do we respond with a mechanical mastermind who can control an entire dragon clan?" Genasi replied with a terrified purr. "We don't. We can't even try to. The only thing we have in response to this is magic, but what spell can fend off 100 dragons with those cannon-like things strapped to them?" Amari said as she pointed out one particular dragon who wore a set of armor and had a set of large firearms strapped to his sides. He gave the dragons those gun things?" "Oh no," Serenia said. "Well, we're in trouble. Do you think this will make the king surrender?" Amari asked. "Probably." Marie trailed off as one of the dragons stomped in front of them and in a most gentlemanly manner ate his food with a spoon and fork. The girls watched, mesmerized in shock and awe as the beast who, barely months ago, would be scorching villages, devouring cows whole, or being busily engaged in a territorial fight, was now sitting down like a civilized person and casually munching on some stew made by a human. This entire situation was nothing short of absurd. Genasi visibly reached down, deployed her cat-like claws, and jabbed them into her thigh. She squeaked in pain and growled angrily as it dawned on her she was in fact still alive and was fully awake. The dragons ate their meal and curled up or rolled around like puppies, each one having eaten 1/10 of what they usually eat, but seemingly fully satisfied. Caliban was his own form of magic. The revelry was suddenly cut short as the main hangar doors opened again. Lorelei had started construction, and newly built war machines, the so-called tanks, were rolling off the production line. Each one was different: a bigger gun, wider tracks, stronger armor, larger hull, or more than one cannon barrel. Each machine's engines roared above the sound of the alarms blaring as the doors released them. Caliban ignored it, continuing to serve meals for the dragons who were still unashamedly fixated on the food. The vehicles parked in their designated spots, dragons nearby moving out of the way but never dropping or releasing their plates. As the last few beasts, the older, less mobile ones, trickled in and got their share of the tasty meal, Caliban seemed distracted as he checked a nearby control panel between servings. Marius, Katarn, and Cassius, the three dragons who had started their businesses, finally returned, receiving their own servings of food without even saying hello first. They gobbled up their plates, casually tossing their earnings of gold and silver at Caliban, who shortly after disappeared into the large factory building. By now, all the food was gone, the smaller baby dragons being allowed to lick all the remaining sauce up, and every grain of rice and crumb of bread was scooped up and eaten. The entire clan was now sprawled around the facility, rolled over, curled up, or belly up on the ground, fully satisfied from their food binge. The girls carefully considered the insanity around them and tried to make sense of the dream world they found themselves in. After a few minutes, Caliban came back out of the factory building and headed towards the girls' dormitory building. "Okay, ladies, time to hustle!" he loudly yelled as he entered the building. "Living room now!" he bellowed. All the girls in the building obeyed, unwilling to disobey the concerning human owing to his sudden new power. They all arrived and stood to attention. "Well then, the situation changes once again, and it seems my licensing system still works. At least to an extent," Cal said with a strange grin. Marie raised her hand nervously. "Pardon? You mentioned this license thing before. What, pray tell, is this thing?" "Back in my world, in order to use the molecular assembly system we have that builds all of the stuff we use, you have to purchase a license from the designer. This allows you to make whatever they make, provided you have access to the materials needed. Licenses allow me to manufacture everything from tanks to chocolate bars. Without licenses, the machines won't function. In short, machine can't make thing, buy license for it. Machine make thing now. It's little more than my world's version of bureaucracy." Cal replied with a smirk. "Oh," she replied, still visibly confused. "Look, we have work to do, so I'll tell you more in detail about the factory later. Right now, it's time to teach. Get to your rooms and look in the clothes closets. You'll find a blue item called a jumpsuit. Put it on, then head over to the tanks. Feel free to cut any holes in the suits you need for tails and whatnot. We will make some real suits for you later. Meet you there," Cal said, and headed outdoors again. The girls didn't question it and retreated to their respective dorm rooms to dress. Each girl had her own version of trouble putting the suit on, but eventually the ladies trickled out and towards the tanks. Eventually, the last girl filtered out and stood near the vehicles. "Here it is, the Douglas McDonnell, BC-17 Series Modular Armored Assault Vehicle. The MAAV, or simply MAV for short. The most commonly used pre-war printed vehicle there is. I got the licensing to use a heavily modified, highly simplified version of it. You're going to get your training from this thing," Caliban said casually as he climbed up one of them and sat on the top. "So, how do these work? I see no horses," one girl asked. Yeah, I forgot about that. Hold on one moment." Cal moved out of his spot and opened the rear engine hatch for one of the tanks, showing its exposed engine. He beckoned all of them to come closer. "So I'm told by Serenia that there is a system you lot use. Steam engines, steam turbines. Is this correct?" "Yes," several girls replied, "but nothing that does that. Now, let's talk about engines. What is an engine? A steam engine is a device that uses coal, burnable fuel, or other such to heat up water in a boiler. The water then turns into steam, and the steam is then used to propel a vehicle or object by regulating the steam pressure. In short, converting the chemical and thermal energy from fuel into kinetic energy for the device, from coal to steam to movement and motion. A chemical engine like this one is much the same, only a lot more efficienter. So, looking at it, can anybody tell me how it do?" Cal said. The girls all just glared at him in response. "I shall tell you. It all starts with suck, squeeze, bang, and blow," Caliban said, making various gestures as he said those words. The statement makes some girls blush and some of them giggle. The 4 steps of a 4-stroke engine. Step 1, intake. The engine first sucks in a mixture of fuel and air, Step 2, compression. It uses these piston things here to squeeze that mixture really tight. Step 3, power stroke. It uses a device called a spark plug to ignite that mixture, causing a tiny explosion. Step 4, exhaust. The piston moves down due to the explosion. This force causes the rotation of a shaft. This rotation causes the energy necessary for the vehicle to move. The expended gases are expelled, hence the exhaust, he said, explaining as casually as can be. These pistons are connected to a crankshaft, each piston sucking, squeezing, banging, and blowing. When piston go up and down, crankshaft go round and round. Crankshaft go round, wheels go round and round too. This is the basic idea of how it works. The girls all just stared at him blankly, some of them actually understanding, but most of them just raising a brow like he was some kind of madman. But that isn't for me to explain. That's as best as I can give right now. It isn't my job to tell you how. It's my job to show you how, he said. He pulled out a small black pad of some kind and pressed a button. The engines of all the machines suddenly choked and sputtered to life. You are going to learn how to handle things and how these work in far, far greater detail later down the line, but for now, I shall teach you how to use the equipment. Lorelei will teach you how it works, Cal said. One girl, an angel, raised a hand. Why? Do we have to learn how to work these things now? Well, teaching you how they work is a lot harder and will take a lot longer, whereas teaching you to drive and shoot will only take a few days. They aren't that complicated. Giving you the education to actually understand the how is a lot more in-depth and will take a lot longer than teaching you to just do it. As far as I'm told, we don't have that long, apparently, so it's best to teach you how to do this now and get to the other stuff later. Cal replied with a shrug. Women do not ordinarily engage in combat, one of the girls stated. I figured as much. That's why you are driving tanks. The men can fight with more traditional means, Caliban said, giving his long rifle a playful pat. The tanks will give mobility, armor, strength, and power to help the boys do their jobs better. Tanks will keep you safe. The guns will keep the men safe. Simple as, Cal said with a chuckle. They all nodded, not necessarily in agreement. But anyway, this all depends on whether we even need it in the first place. If we don't, oh well, it's a step towards the future, Cal said and disappeared inside the tank. He then reappeared by popping his head up out of one of the hatches. Cal used the controls to turn it and move it about a bit, showing off its abilities. It trundled about with speed and agility that nothing that size or weight should have had any right to. Then, he parked it at a specific spot, aiming it at the cliffside to the northwest. The large tube on the top moved, then fired. The thunderous boom reverberated through the valley. A streak of yellow light blasted through the air, and a second loud boom erupted, resulting in a portion of the rock face disappearing into a cloud. The machine whirred and scraped as Caliban resumed driving it, then parked it next to its fellows. He stopped its engine, hopped out, and looked at the crowd. They all stared at him. What? He casually said, as though he hadn't just blown a hole into a mountain with almost no effort. The entire Dragon Clan and each girl was standing there, slack-jawed in shock at something he did so casually. So, do you do that often in your world? Just casually blow pieces of mountain apart? One girl asked. Yeah, of course, generally speaking, we get much bigger cannons, though, used for significantly more nefarious purposes, obviously, and most of the time just for fun, and usually with bigger guns. But anyway, come on. One by one, I'm going to show you how to operate these things. Genasi, you'll be a good test. Let's see if I have this teacher thing right. If you love engaging stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest episodes from FY Stories.